Hello. I am so happy and honored to be here at the 2025 Dystonia Symposium. And it's been great to present at these symposiums over the last number of years. And I'm particularly happy about this year's topic on holistic mind-body approaches to managing dystonia. And if you don't know me, I'm Patrick Hogan. I am a coach for movement and life, helping people to move more easily, with more freedom in their bodies, with less pain, so that they can get out there and pursue their life's goals and dreams. I want to get started, so let's get to this presentation. I'm calling this the Roots of an Aligned Life, and it's sort of it's a workbook, really, that I hope a lot of you have in paper form as well. But it's a way of illustrating and creating a map for how to create a holistic approach for dystonia, as well as everyone else, really, because it can apply to everybody. So for my coaching clients, and the way I think of it is, particularly in modern society, we tend to be pulled in so many different directions. And a lot of the cultural norms that we are living by are not necessarily designed for our individual happiness or health. And so when we have a health issue, or we then make a commitment to embark upon a health journey, it's kind of like we're really pushing against the grain. We're swimming upstream. And when we're being pulled in so many directions, it can create a lot of drain on our energy, a lot of extra stress in our lives, and eventually a lot of discouragement if we don't really know how to manage all those pulls in separate directions. So is calling for, by understanding that what it means to be taking a holistic approach is to understand that all parts of our lives are connected. And once we start looking at how the habits of living in one area of our lives is actually having an effect, for better or worse, in all the other areas as well, then we can finally start to get a clearer picture of how to move forward. So I started with this thought from this aphorism from an Ojibwa saying, that is, no tree has branches so foolish as to fight amongst themselves. And so if we have a nice little picture of a tree here, I sound a little bit like Bob Ross. And we can think about these branches, and the saying originally was a statement of how peoples should be in cooperation and how it's foolish to fight against each other. But I really think this can be applied to our individual health and life fulfillment journeys as well. And there's the leaves, there's healthy branches. But as I started to think about it, I realized that's only really half the tree. And there's this other quote by Rumi, which is, maybe you are searching in the branches for what only appears in the roots. So let's include the roots in this picture. So with a whole root system as well. And so now we can start to think, metaphor, that in order for the canopy of the tree to be really healthy, we want the nutrients to be pulled up through the roots into the trunk and up into the canopy. And it's not going to serve the tree very well if the nutrients are being pulled in the opposite direction. So if we do find that it's being pulled in the opposite direction, the trunk is going to get weaker, the leaves aren't going to flourish. And so we want to find a way to get all the roots to be working in the same direction within this tree, and to turn around any of the deficiencies or whatever is causing the root to be pulling the nutrients in the wrong way. And that leads to like this mantra that I have in my coaching programs, which is, when your roots nourish your purpose and values, you create the structural integrity that empowers the flourishing of your envisioned life. So now, what if we think about the canopy of the tree as representing the goals and ideals and the aspirations that we have for our life? It's what it would be like if our life was really, truly flourishing. Call that our flourishing life. And underneath that, and what supports the flourishing life, is this solid structure, or the tree trunk. And I think of that as being our values and our purpose, what's really meaningful and important to us. And underneath that, and what's serving both of those, is the root system. Now, the roots I think of as being the daily actions of life. And to really take a holistic approach to our lives, we want our roots to be in cooperation both with each other, but also in service to the values and purpose and the goals and the dreams that we have. Now, I've identified three main categories of life as the main roots of the tree. And each tree itself has three subroots or subcategories. I'm sure you could devise your own labels for these. You know, it might vary from person to person, but here's mine. It's basically body, mind, and lifestyle. But more specifically, I like to categorize each of these with these action phrases that help propel us towards our values and purpose. And the phrases I use are cultivating a resilient body, calibrating your inner compass, and curating your environment. And what I'd like to talk about a little bit is how each one. So let me talk about what does it mean to cultivate a resilient body. To me, it means to strive to work with your body as best as possible that you can live out those values and goals that you have. And this includes things like creating, better alignment and postural habits, building strength and flexibility required to move well in natural movement patterns such as walking and sitting, as well as other desired activities. And it also means making exercises that you do meaningful enough that it actually enriches your life rather than becomes a chore that you have difficulty finding motivation for. To calibrate your inner compass means to attune to your instincts, your intuition, and your gut sense and your essential self. And the way we do that is to navigate limiting beliefs that might be holding you back, learning to trust your body's signals, and orienting inward to your own sense of your chosen values and your own sense of yourself in order to take action rather than relying on external validation or external rules and such things of that nature. And finally, curating your environment also entails optimizing your habitat, where you work, where you live, and optimizing it in line with your values and purpose, but not only that, but also in line with what makes your body more healthy, etc. Designing positive habits, that tends to be one of the trickiest ones for a lot of us is, we fall into habits, but what if we could really know a system for designing positive habits that help propel us towards the life we want? And finally, fostering community. And all of these really are having a deep effect on the other. A little simple examples is let's say, so here's an example of how they might be either in conflict with each other or working towards each other. Let's say you have health goals and you have goals for how you envision your life wants to be, and you know that includes cultivating a resilient body. So you decide to go to the gym and you do it, let's say 3 times a week for an hour. That's great, and that's giving you benefit, and that's lovely. However, if your environment and your habitat when you work and at home are really set up to be, let's just say it, kind of sedentary, which, most of us have that. Most of our culture is designed around gathering and sitting. Unfortunately, the time we spend sitting and the environment that actually encourages sitting becomes a detriment to all the health-related goals that we have for our bodies, our fitness goals, because it's putting ourselves in a real sedentary position that our body tends to adapt to. So if we learn to instead optimize our habitat by maybe providing more spaces for movement and starting to create different habits of maybe instead of meeting people or spending so much time sitting at home or at work, you could find new habits of standing or taking walks to even get your chores done. There's so many creative things you can think about here that really the sky's the limit. Likewise, you can think about, let's say you have, a real great effect. What's cool about having a diagram like this, and what you can do with this diagram now in your workbook is actually even like color in the places or mark the places that you feel are really dialed in and you're very good at versus what are the places you need to work more on, or some of the places you haven't thought about at all. And that really gives you a focus on what you can put your efforts into. And know that as you put your efforts in one area, it's definitely going to improve the efforts in other areas as well. So if you were to improve your diet, it's also going to affect your motivation for movement. If you start to improve your habits of movement throughout the day, you might actually have a better sense internally of how you wish to live your life. Everything is feeding itself. But once you see that, and you see that some categories of life are not in balance or not in service to your values and purpose, what do? And finally, can you get to the place where you're willing to try something else? So often, when we know that we need something to change, our mind really balks at it. It sort of has a reflex to say, no, I don't want to do that. I want to keep things the same. And that's where we might need to start to develop a little bit of what is called psychological flexibility. And this term comes from acceptance and commitment therapy, where psychological flexibility is the core goal. And it's the ability to stay in context, even in the presence of difficult thoughts, feelings, or sensations. Even when you feel things are actually being pulled in the other direction, how do you create the space and the awareness and the commitment to stay on course? It's basically a way of gaining skills. And the skills in psychological flexibility helps us be more in the present moment as we are, accepting of our thoughts and our feelings and experiences, and still commit fully to engaging in life aligned to our values. And a shorter way to say it is, it helps us see ourselves holistically while pursuing what makes life most meaningful. And to begin to dream bigger for ourselves. So as a movement and life coach, I have this access to this really wonderful app called PsychFlex. And this is an app that is developed by the originators and the experts in the field of acceptance and commitment therapy. And it's used by coaches and trainers and behavioral change specialists, all to help their clients develop the skills of psychological flexibility and actually make positive changes in their lives. And what it is essentially, it's a huge library of teachings and meditations and metaphors and exercises and assessment tools that can all get delivered right to you on your app, on your phone or your computer. And the content comes in so many different forms. It's in PDFs and in videos and audios and worksheets. And most are really just really short kernels, about 1 to 3 minutes, that are really